initiate self-destruct sequencing.
Welcome to our terrible review miniseries, My Mando and Me.
My Mando and Me.
We're three fans hanging out, talking about whatever seems interesting at the time. And for now, that's The Mandalorian. If we haven't met before, hi, my name is Robert.
Hi, I'm James. We've got a lot to cover today. It is the season finale for season 2 of The Mandalorian, so no silliness from you, Nathan.
Aww.
We're taking a break from our regularly scheduled programming to share our thoughts on each chapter of season 2 of The Mandalorian on Disney+. After each chapter airs, you can expect our review to drop the Sunday after, but that's a trick because this is the last one. Now, here we hate spoilers. Anyone who spoils the finale of a show like The Mandalorian is a real skink in the scud pie, a big son of a mud scuffer, a really slimy stiffling. Cut it out. From here on out, we're in spoiler territory. We open with the Slave One giving pursuit to a Landa-class shuttle. On board is the clone engineer, Dr. Pershing. After successfully disabling the shuttle with a well-placed ion blast, our nearly complete Team Mando boards the shuttle. During a brief standoff, one of the pilots threatens to kill the good doctor and pushes the Alderaanian survivor, Cara Dune, a bit too far. Yo, that one pilot is a really slimy stiffling, man. If there ever was one. I don't think anyone is feeling any sympathy for this guy. He deserved what he got. He shoots his co-pilot in the back, pushes Cara a bit too far. He kind of makes you feel like he might be in the right when he mentions the millions killed on the Death Stars, but then immediately dismisses the possibly billions senselessly killed on Alderaan. Big mistake, dude. I am curious how they track Dr. Pershing, though. We're never really given an explanation or even a suggestion in the form of like some kind of side mention or visualization.
Yeah, it is kind of weird that like we start the scene and like the shuttle doesn't have any kind of escort. And this is, it's carrying one of Moff Gideon's top scientists. Why would it be like alone like this? But I'm probably just going to chalk it up to maybe they already took out the escort. They had a limited amount of time in the finale, so they just got to get right to business, which I appreciate.
For me, the most tense part of this face-off is Cara's going to shoot the pilot. I know it. But he is in mass. So would Disney let him die, much less show him getting shot? So I kept going back and forth on this guy's life. Like, is he going to die? Isn't he going to die? What's going on? So I'm happy to see that Cara gave him plenty of opportunities before she ends up shooting him. And I'm glad to see she shot him in the face. And I'm also glad they obscured the actual shot with smoke so they didn't have to go back on the sensory. It was basically a win-win-win with the observant viewer not knowing if he was going to die or not, Cara getting satisfaction, and the censors keeping their standards.
Yeah, and this pilot bugged me all afternoon. Like when I saw this, this morning as soon as the episode premiered, I was like, I know this guy from somewhere. Where do I know it from? And then finally this afternoon, I was like, oh yeah, 500 years ago, back in June, when I was watching the final season of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., hey, that was the main bad guy from that. Same kind of like, cadence in his speech and everything. And he was a scummy scumbag there for a villain too. So good job on that.
Yeah, this episode doesn't hold back on the brutalness. We'll see as we cover more of this later. It's pretty rough for the bad guys in this go around. With Dr. Pershing captured, the Slave One lands on an unnamed planet to find Bo-Katan and enlist her aid in rescuing the kid. She declines, believing it to be a lost cause. Boba Fett tells Mando to abandon their effort, but Mando shares that he has Moff Gideon's coordinates. Realizing her target is now within reach, she is interested. Mando uses her plans to regain Mandalore as further bait. Surprising Boba. Recognizing his voice, Bo calls out Boba as a clone with some not so thinly veiled prejudice words. After a brief rivalry between Boba and Koska Reeves, Bo calls the group to order and agrees to help, but asks that Mando reconsider joining their efforts when his quest is complete. Man, there's a lot going on in this very short scene, but before we get to that, it's a cantina! Yes! Cantina in the final episode. I was kind of getting worried there because we haven't had one in a while, but we finally got one in the finale. So I'm a happy camper.
Okay, so two Mandalorians walk into a bar. One says to another one, "I need your help." I get the feeling there's probably a setup for a joke in here somewhere, but that's all I got.
So, the thing that stood out to me the most is Bo's hatred for the clones and, the audacity that Boba would wear their armor. Like, I get it. The clones, thanks to Order 66, turned not just on the Jedi, but the galaxy as a whole, kind of, and made the takeover of Mandalore possible. And while Boba is a clone of a Mandalorian, Bo isn't having it. And I like the scuffle here between Boba and Koska. I didn't like that Boba kind of seemed easily matched by Koska a little too quickly. There were even a couple moments there where he was overwhelmed, but it was good to see them kind of scrap here for a little bit. We just restored Boba's badassery not 2 chapters ago, so let's not be too quick to make him look too bad. So it's a good thing Bo ended the fight early, I guess. We may never know how that could have ended. Maybe next Christmas we will. Stay tuned for more on that.
Yeah, seriously, though, is this episode just going to be full of verbal smackdowns? First, we had the Imperial pilot versus Cara Dune. Now we got Boba Fett and Bo-Katan going at it. What's next? Is Grogu going to diss Wicket the Ewok for being nothing than more than a glorified teddy bear? Yub nub indeed.
I honestly like that Koska could hold out so well. And I don't think it was necessary to show that they were equal, but that Koska seemed to be relying more on skill and Boba was relying on his gear. I honestly like that Koska could hold out so well. And I don't think it was necessary to show that they're equal, but that Koska seemed to be relying more on skill and that Boba Fett was relying on his gear. Also, I'm not so certain that Bo-Katan was whistling at Boba Fett being a clone, or that there's still a divide on whether or not Jango Fett, and by extension Boba Fett, are Mandalorians. It feels to me that that's still a conflict that some accept Jango as one and others don't, kind of harking back to the difference in creeds and interpretation of their own culture. They might have had a better handle on these definitions and all if somebody hadn't glassed their home planet.
True. Bo leads a briefing session to discuss their plan of attack. The plan is to have the Lambda shuttle issue a distress call, then make an emergency landing on the cruiser. Then Koska, Fennec, Dune, and Bo will disembark and start their assault. While they draw a crowd, Mando can sneak in undetected. Their plan will culminate in the meeting at the bridge. But there's a small wrinkle. Pershing shares there is a garrison of third-generation Dark Troopers on board. As they near Moff's cruiser, Bo and Cara have a disagreement about what to do with Gideon. Cara, now a Marshal of the New Republic, sees the value in capturing an ISB officer. Bo just wants him to surrender to her. Boba calls out their final approach, and Bo reminds him to make the attack look convincing. Fett promises to put on a good show. This sounds like a solid plan. I do like that Bo seems to be softening her mood towards Boba. Earlier, when they first meet, he calls her princess, but condescendingly. He does it again here, but it's more playful. She also shows a bit of concern when she reminds him to book it as soon as they make it on board, giving me some Han and Leia vibes here when he calls her princess, to tease her. More information about the Dark Troopers is being made canon from the Dark Forces game. I do like that. We pointed out back when we first saw the Dark Troopers how they look similar to the Phase 3 troopers in the game. And here, Pershing says they are third-generation designs and they're droids, just like in the game. And he makes sure to emphasize they are droids, certainly striking a nerve with Mando. But he explains how the earlier designs were suits with humans inside as the final weakness to be removed. So while the Phase 1 and 2 Dark Troopers and Dark Forces were also droids, Phase 0 Dark Troopers introduced in the original Star Wars Battlefront video game were actually aged clone troopers transformed into cyborgs. Sorry, I nerded out there for a second. I also like here, how they kind of make Pershing out to be a good guy, right? And earlier in season 1, he was the one trying to save Grogu's life and not kill him by taking his blood. But when he delivers this line about the humans inside being the final weakness, he kind of says it a bit too proudly, like he's cracked the code and we just have to get rid of the human part of it. You're a human too, dude.
Or is he?
Dun dun dun.
Yeah, the interesting choice with this plan though is to kind of like sideline Boba Fett like right after they get to the light cruiser. At first it didn't really make much sense. Like, all right, couldn't he have like, I don't know, come back through and I don't know, done another strafing run or just jetpacked his way onto the ship or something? But given who appears at the end of the episode, it kind of makes sense because we don't need to also pack in another awkward reunion into this finale.
Even back in the episode that Pershing is introduced, I always saw him as more neutral than pro or antagonist oriented. His goals seemed to be just chasing scientific discovery. Perhaps the Empire captured him and he went along with it as an opportunity to learn more, or they were just more in line with goals and he searched them out willingly. I I don't think Boba Fett should have joined them on raiding the light cruiser. I think it was perfectly fine to make it believable that they were being chased by a bounty hunter or possible bounty hunter, and then for him to leave when he realizes I can't get them anymore, so mine will cut my losses. And that just kind of helped give them a few extra seconds to get like situated to be able to then board the light cruiser and continue on their mission. So to me, it made perfect sense that once they got onto the docking bay, that he just left because he wasn't needed anymore.
Yeah, but considering the plan was then to just shoot up the docking bay, he could have, come back 5 minutes later and been like, hey, here I am to help. I'm Boba Fett.
Sure. Not to continue this because there's so much to cover, but they don't shut down the weapon system till they get to the bridge, and that may be the other reason why he doesn't come back. So, coming out of hyperspace near Gideon's cruiser, Boba begins to fake this fake assault on the shuttle as Bo calls in a distress signal. The officer on the bridge dispatches ties on Gideon's orders. Two manage to deploy before Team Mando is able to make their emergency landing. As they do, Boba Fett peels off his attack run, quickly destroys the two ties, and jumps away. In the aftermath and chaos of their emergency landing, troopers scramble to aid the Trojan shuttle, and Team Mando begins their assault. This was a great moment. I know that some of the tension is lost because it's not like something's going to go horribly wrong yet, but it was still a pretty tense scene. Was it going to work? Are they going to be able to fool Gideon? We get the typical Star Wars trope. The imps are pretty dumb and they fall for the same tricks every time, but it still felt really, really cool. The plan works, and damn did Boba put on a good show. I do love that moment when he finally peels off and the cannons just flip back, zip, zip, the ties are gone, and then he just takes off with zero effort. My only weird thing about the scene is the CG for the shuttle looked just a little bit janky. It felt almost amateurish. The CG on the show has been incredible. So it felt like it just, I don't know, the ship looked a little too plasticky, a little too fake for my like, but it's all right.
I don't know. You might have to put a clip or something of it there because it all looked fine to me. So I can't picture what you're talking about at the moment.
Same, honestly.
Yeah, I will say that seeing these launch procedures for the TIE fighters out of that launch tube or whatever, for someone who grew up playing the old Star Wars flight sim games, it was a very nice touch. I liked that.
The four ladies begin their assault. Gideon orders an officer to begin powering up the Dark Troopers. Successfully drawing away the troopers, Mando sneaks off the shuttle and makes his way to the brig. Bo, Finnick, Kauska, and Kara continue to decimate the stormtroopers. So Star Wars gets its Avengers girl power moment, but this one feels much more earned because of how subtle it is. I didn't even really put this together until my second watch through, where I'm like, man, they're really kicking ass. And then I realized that it's all of them are women. And not that that has to matter necessarily, but it was still a cool moment that we have these four badass women just laying waste to all of these stormtroopers. I love they do focus a lot on Fennec in this scene. They do kind of all get a little bit of equal footing here, but I feel like they spend just a little bit more time with Fennec. She gets a lot of very awesome moments and really cool shots. This makes me even more excited for her appearance in the coming Bad Batch series. And I love the startup sequence of the Dark Troopers. I can't wait to see what they can do.
Yeah. So first off, strike team. Love that they all get their moment to shine and everything. Personally, I might have actually had, a sharpshooter like Fennec pull up the rear with like some sort of mid-range sniper rifle thing instead of being up front with a blaster rifle just to cover Kara when her weapon is jammed. That seems like a little bit of a waste. And the Dark Troopers, the Dark Troopers. I've loved the music for this series, but I can honestly say I am not a fan of the Dark Troopers theme that they have going on. It just took me out of the moment and kind of made me chuckle a little. I know that some people might not be crazy about like all the Western themes and the music that have been mixed with traditional Star Wars music, but like I feel that this weird like techno dubstep thing, whatever, just it did not work for me. It's just I'm dreading the eventual remix that somebody is going to make out of this.
I liked it.
Me too.
To me, it was very metallic and very droid-like, and just very like exactly how the droids looked on screen. It was like an audio representation of what I was seeing, and so I enjoyed that part of it. But the whole sequence with the Dark Troopers makes me wonder that Dr. Pershing mentioned specifically that they had to be kept cold because they run too hot, they use too much power. And I'm just like, but if you refrigerate something, it adds more energy to a closed system, which just makes it hotter. So why do you specifically have to keep these Dark Troopers cold when they're not in use? Maybe they're not all droids. Maybe there's some organics to them still, and they're just trying to like cryogenically freeze them when they're not actually in service.
I
No,
think
if that were the case, Pershing would have made a mention of that, given how he went on about it earlier.
I think what he meant was not cold storage like refrigerated. I think he meant just cold as in not ready.
And that's how I interpreted it at first, until they showed all those hoses blasting off of them and like all this like
coolant and stuff. Yeah.
So that's why I was like, why are they being kept cold? That doesn't make sense. But don't know. They've all been destroyed.
You're a nerd. We get it. After successfully avoiding detection through a few corridors, Mando fails to reach the cargo bay before the Dark Troopers are deployed, as the door opens as soon as he arrives. He rushes to close the door, but one makes it out. It immediately tries to kill him. Losing badly, Mando manages to finally defeat the lone Dark Trooper with a Beskar spear through the neck. Before the others can break down the door, he opens the airlock, and they all get pulled into the vacuum of space. It's a good thing Mando never got around to painting his armor like Fett, because he totally blends in with all the gray on the ship. He, for me, unconvincingly hides behind a wall from some troopers, and they totally miss him. It wasn't comically obvious, but he wasn't completely obscured, and it just looked to me like, oh yeah, he kind of blends in a little bit with the color of his armor. This fight, though, with the Dark Trooper, awesome. Super worried for Mando. Again, I get it. Nothing's going to happen yet, but it could, right? Dave and John could throw something last second at us and, throw a curveball and totally surprise us and subvert our expectations. So the tension was high for me here, especially because he's being easily beaten and thrown around like a ragdoll in Beskar. It's a good thing that Beskar is very strong, because there's a moment where he's got him pinned against the wall and he's just repeatedly punching him in the face over and over again. And I was totally expecting a moment where Mando was going to have to duck down, and then the Dark Trooper was going to crunch the helmet down, effectively removing it permanently, or at least until he gets a new one. And I love the moment where he tries to set it on fire. The Dark Trooper stops and kind of gives Mando like a, really? Really? I'm a droid, bro. Like, that's really going to work? And then throws him over. In the end, I do want to point out that none of Mando's more advanced weapons actually help him here. Blaster doesn't work. Looks like maybe the Dark Troopers are made of Beskar. And the Whistling Birds, no dice. In the end, it was his most primitive weapon, the Beskar spear, that does the job. And what a glorious kill it was. But then Star Wars does what it's always done with bad guys, where it gives us a really cool moment where our heroes are struggling against a formidable threat. They finally defeat one, and then they are easily getting rid of the rest of the enemies. So it just felt like he kind of flushed all the other Dark Troopers down the toilet. It just felt a little bit of a, cheap moment that ruined the tension for me. It's like, oh, well, the Dark Troopers are gone. I guess there's not a problem or anything to worry about anymore.
Yeah, but first thought, as soon as the Dark Troopers are blown out into space, come on, it's like, wait, did no one bother to consider the fact that they have rocket boots? And being droids, they don't need to worry about breathing in vacuum. These are things that, they might have considered with this plan. Like, oh no, we're going to space them and never see them again. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. And backing up to the Mando versus Dark Trooper fight, I kind of got another chuckle-worthy moment out of it. Like, Dark Troopers constantly hitting the Mandalorian in the head, and for some reason I just kind of found it funny. Maybe it's because we as the audience don't see it having visibly any kind of effect. All we get is like, the clang. Or maybe it's just because when I see the remaining troopers on the other side of the door, I just they're trying to punch their way through, and I just see them as being some souped up rock'em sock'em robot type things.
It's just part of the action with the world's only boxing robots, the Rock'em Sock'em Robots by Marx.
I don't know. I found it kind of funny. And I'm going to stand by that until we hear it from another source, official source, like maybe a making of book or something. They're not made of Beskar. Given what we see later on in the episode and how a lightsaber tears through them, they're probably not Beskar. Not everything is Beskar. Or you don't have 3 clothing options in Star Wars. Beskar, the Stormtroopers, is it what, Durasteel, Plastisteel, whatever it is?
I don't remember, honestly.
Or regular, padded clothing. It can be more than just all that.
The Fantastic Four make it to the bridge and eliminate all remaining hostiles and disable the cruiser's weapon system. However, Moff Gideon is not there. Now at the brig, Mando brutally eliminates 2 guards and opens the door to find Gideon inside with the Darksaber held just above Grogu. Gideon monologues about how Bo-Katan is after the Darksaber and gives the possessor power to claim the throne of Mandalore, but Mando is only interested in the child. Gideon concedes, unlike some people, and gives Mando the opportunity to leave with the child, as he already has what he wanted from him, his blood, with special properties he desires. Though it is all a ruse. As soon as Mando reaches for Grogu, Gideon attacks. Mando's Beskar saving his skin from the Darksaber's blade. The 2 fight. Beskar steel versus Darksaber plasma. Bested by Mando, Gideon's life is spared. Let's get this part out of the way. It's a trap. It's a trap! I don't mind the monologuing here because Giancarlo Esposito is such a good villain. But come on, Mando, put the blaster bolt through his head and call it mission complete. But if he did, we wouldn't get this awesome 1v1 match. You can tell Gideon isn't a practiced swordsman, at least from what Hollywood has taught me about what proper sword fighting should be. His moves are power swing after power swing. He's on the attack. He's probably hoping his relentlessness will win him this bout. But Mando is much more refined, has better training. He pulls off beautiful blocks and eventually disarms the Moff. What a fight. But, didn't Bo say she wanted Moff to surrender to her? We might be getting some drama here in a second. I'm curious to see how Nathan feels about this fight, because this sword fighting thing is more in his wheelhouse.
Robert, you're absolutely right. It's crystal clear that Gideon doesn't really know how to wield a weapon of this type, and he's banking that Mando's going to make a mistake that will cost him his life. So I don't think he was really expecting this fight to go on more than just a couple of swings. Maybe Gideon knew that Beskar could block lightsabers. The Dark Troopers seem to be made of it as well, so he probably did his own studies to know just exactly what they could stand up to. But I can guarantee he wasn't expecting Mando to have a Beskar spear to defend with, or that Mando would have so much training in non-blaster type weaponry. I know Gideon says Mando should assume he knows everything, But if that were true, he wouldn't have swung to hit Mando in his back, where his armor is, for that first strike. He would have gone for a joint. I do also love the dead man stance he has on Grogu at the start of the scene, clearly signaling to Mando, you kill me, you kill the child.
See, I might chalk it up to like when Gideon is, doing his, first surprise attack, lightsabers, they make noise. So I'm sure Mando, he has his ears, he has whatever sensors are in the helmet. He could probably hear it, and he has what's shown to be pretty good reaction timing. He probably heard it and maybe moved from where Gideon was going to try to strike him.
Possible. Mando takes Gideon to the bridge with Grogu and the Darksaber. Bo is not happy. Gideon explains that the Darksaber now belongs to Mando. Mando tries to turn it over to Bo, but Gideon continues to explain that she must defeat Mando in combat for her to wield it, goading her on to do as such. Bo confirms that this is true, but a threat returns to put our crew in danger. The Dark Troopers, previously jettisoned into space, are back. They make for the bridge and begin to work on knocking the blast door to the bridge down. As our heroes struggle to find a solution, Gideon continues to taunt them. And there we have it. Remember when Bo was upset that Gideon wasn't on the bridge when she got there? This is why. She wanted to confront him and best him in combat and have a rightful claim to the Darksaber. Gideon explains this so beautifully when he says, the Darksaber doesn't have power. The story does. And without that blade, she's just a pretender. See, and I had an issue with this when I first saw it, because I immediately recalled how she got the Darksaber in the first place in Rebels. No, I'm not going to say it. I've been saying it every dang episode this season. If you haven't done it by now, or at least started, it's not worth it. No. No. Watch Rebels. Back in Rebels, she accepts the Darksaber without combat from Sabine Wren and planned to use it to unite Mandalore. But we never actually get to see what came of that. We know that Mandalorians are still not reunited and that she lost the Darksaber to Gideon somehow. So I wonder if it didn't work because she accepted it freely. It didn't take. The story wasn't there, right? Like Gideon is talking about. So she was unsuccessful in reuniting Mandalore, and that contributed to the Empire's successful purge, a mistake that she is now unwilling to make again. It has me very excited for how this will develop next season. Drama between enemies is good, but drama between allies is even better. And color me stupid, even though James mentioned it earlier, when I was upset that the Dark Troopers were gone, I completely forgot they fly and they're droids. However,
they fly now.
However, I don't feel too stupid because if you all remember, Nathan didn't even know a super battle droid was a droid. But I'm glad they're back because what the hell else are they going to do now? Who saw how, you saw how hard it was to defeat one with Mando. Now they have the rest of the garrison to deal with.
All right. So first off, as far as Moff Gideon is concerned, when you have an opponent whose words are just as much of a weapon as a blaster rifle would be, you really should know that you have to bound and gag them when you have the chance. Look at the first Avengers movie, not the Captain America first Avengers, the Avengers movie. Weird naming. Anyway, they made sure to lock down Loki at the end of the movie when they could. You see him at the end of the movie, he's doing the same here to Moff Gideon would have saved Mandalorian and Bo-Katan a lot of trouble. So, just saying. And also, you might need to go back and rewatch some of the Rebel stuff, because I seem to remember Bo-Katan had the backing of the rest of the Mandalorian clans. So, her accepting the Darksaber from Sabine can make sense. She didn't also have to fight for it because did Sabine have to fight for it? No, she found it in Darth Maul's cave on, I think, Dathomir or whatever, right? So she didn't have to fight for it. So she could just freely give it, theoretically.
I guess we'll have to see what happens next season. Knock.
Who's this?
Ewok?
Ewok who?
Ewok the door. Let the Dark Troopers in. Okay, sorry. Okay, here we go. Knock.
Who's there?
I thought you didn't like the first one. Luke.
Nope, not doing it. Nope.
Do it.
Luke, who?
Luke out. The Dark Troopers are coming. Okay, sorry. Let's go. Knock. I mean, bang, bang, bang. The Dark Troopers pound on the door, slowly but surely breaking it down. Moff Gideon is still taunting them. They didn't take James's advice. Just before they gain entry, a lone X-Wing appears and boards the cruiser. Bo hails the starfighter, but does not get a response. Suddenly, the pounding stops. The Dark Troopers turn their attention to a mysterious hooded figure in black. Bo watches from the monitor and sees a lightsaber. A Jedi. Can it be? Who? The Dark Troopers are taken out one by one with no mercy. The green blade of the hooded figure cutting right through them like butter, using the Force to their advantage. Our crew, confused and distracted, Gideon grabs a blaster he had been hiding and shoots down Bo, then turns to fire on Grogu, but Mando jumps in the way just in time. Having failed, Gideon turns to fire on himself, but Kara knocks him out before he can take the coward's way out. Grogu continues to watch the monitor, seemingly drawn to this mysterious wielder of the Force. Crushing the final Dark Trooper, Mando orders them to open the door, and our guest of honor arrives at the bridge. Luke Skywalker has come to answer Grogu's call. This scene was great. The tension was cool. The X-Wing arrives. You don't know who it is. We all probably have some ideas. I'll admit, when I first saw it, I thought it was Captain Carson. I'm like, hey, it's Captain Carson. I like this guy. Maybe Kara signaled for help. Then she made that disappointed comment that there's only one of them. And I'm thinking, she definitely did, because she's disappointed that they didn't listen to her and they only sent one. There's totally going to be like a New Republic frigate is going to jump out of hyperspace here just a moment and save the day. But then it doesn't happen. And then I start to refocus on the X-Wing in the landing bay. And I'm like, wait a minute. Could it be? Is it him? Then there's the green blade. And I'm like, no. They wouldn't have done this. I need more clues. And then they show the gloved right hand, and I lost it. I didn't think I wanted Luke in here, but I was like, it is Luke mother freaking Skywalker. Hell to the yes. I know I had mixed feelings about including him in this series, but for this moment, for this scene right here, you son of a mud scuffer, I'm in. And what a scene it was. It was perfect. So perfect. I don't want to ruin it by not being able to do it justice in my explanation. You need to see this scene with your own eyes. And I guess James was right. The Dark Troopers aren't made of Beskar. Well, pure Beskar. Bo does say that lightsabers can't cut through pure Beskar. So if they're made of Beskar, it ain't pure, because the lightsaber cuts right through them. And I do want to...
there's not only 3 options for what clothing and armor can be made out of in the universe.
And I get that. But if you were gonna make these Dark Troopers out of something and you wanted them to survive nearly every threat, the Empire had Beskar. So why not make them out of Beskar? So anyway.
True. And if we get a making a Mandalorian or behind the Mandalorian book and it says it otherwise, you may have a cookie.
So I do want to share one thought that crossed my mind about this scene, and it's that when Luke reaches the final hallway of the Dark Troopers just before the bridge, it is very reminiscent of the hallway scene with Vader in Rogue One. Vader, Dark Lord of the Sith, with a red blade glowing, rebel soldiers in fear, running for their lives as he brutally murders them, all trying to stop the theft of the Death Star plans. And should he get to the other side of that door, surely everyone on the other side will suffer the same fate. And here we've got the opposite, with Luke, a Jedi Master, green blade glowing, killing Dark Troopers that are fearlessly attacking him, and he brutally destroys each one of them, only this time he's working to save what's on the other side of the door. What an amazing imagery here I felt when I was watching this scene. And I'll say nothing more. It was perfect for now.
Yeah. Prior to Luke showing up, though, the Dark Troopers here looked like they were going to maybe be set up as the Star Wars equivalent of Skynet Terminators, and I can totally dig that. But I just got to say, I've really enjoyed this episode so far, but bringing in Luke Skywalker just kind of breaks things for me. First off, he's used as a Luke ex machina to take out all the Dark Troopers, meaning we don't get a proper knockdown, drag out fight between Dark Troopers and the Mandalorian strike team. Second, whatever de-aging tech or CGI deepfake that they use for Luke really needed some more time in the oven. It makes no sense. It's really noticeable when he speaks and the lips don't quite sync up. The director for this episode, Peyton Reed, did the Ant-Man movies, and we had some really great de-aging tech there with Michael Douglas, who, de-aged him by about 40, 50 years, whatever. Maybe not quite that long. But anyway, I don't know if this is just a thing of like big budget movie versus streaming series, but it did not look great to me. Third, this show did not need to be directly connected to the larger Skywalker saga. It's one thing for them to bring in minor characters from the movies like Boba Fett. No offense, Boba Fett's a minor character, Robert. Or characters from the novels and animated series like Cobb Vanth, Ahsoka Tano, Bo-Katan. But Luke freaking Skywalker, I was pretty content with this being a show about, scum and villainy and life on the outer rim of the galaxy. I don't need it being potentially muddled down or held back by the larger movies and their, eventually leading up to the sequel trilogy and all the stuff that goes along with that.
And I can appreciate that. I think for me, I also had mixed feelings about bringing Luke in. There were theories floating around about who was Grogu talking to back on Tython. And, Luke was an option. He is, to our knowledge, the most powerful Jedi that's running around out there right now in the galaxy.
Definitely seems like the lazy option, though.
Sure. And I can appreciate that. And there were some other more interesting options out there, like in Cal Kestis and Mace Windu. Just kidding. And, but I think for me, I will continue to be okay with this appearance of Luke Skywalker if this is the only appearance we get of Luke Skywalker. If this was just a in and out, I got Grogu's call, I'm going to train him, they're going to leave. Season 3 is about reconciling this whole who rules Mandalore thing, because I think that's a really interesting plot line that they can explore, and just do season 3 no Grogu. He wasn't necessary to the show. It is called The Mandalorian after all, and just have Grogu away, because Luke served as a vehicle for removing Grogu from the picture in a way that people were not going to be upset. We didn't have to kill him or have him be needlessly taken away by someone nobody knows, but everybody knows Luke Skywalker. And so I'm fine if this is the only appearance we get, and then Grogu comes back by his own means later on in season 3 or season 4 or whenever. If they do bring Luke back again for some other things, even if it's just to drop off Grogu, then I might be upset because they're connecting it a little too much. But it was pretty cool to see Luke in the way that we all imagined him to be post Return of the Jedi, not the way that we all saw him, at least Nathan was spared, in Last Jedi. So it was, at least for me, cool to see Luke Skywalker kicking butt the way that we all expect him to at this moment in time in the timeline.
While it would be nice to not see Grogu for a while, have him have his proper time to go training or whatever, I honestly don't see the money grubbing execs at Disney letting that huge marketing gold mine out of, the public sight for that long.
And that's fine. Like I said, it's more about just serving as a vehicle to pull him away for a time, even if that's literally for the break between seasons.
Maybe. So, I mean, look at it this point. We only just in the previous episode had our first Grogu-less episode. That's it. He's been in 15 out of the 16 episodes. Maybe not like a big part of all of them, but still, he's always there. He's your little buddy.
So Luke calls Grogu to go with him, but he's reluctant. Luke explains that Grogu wants Mando's permission to go. Then that Grogu is strong with the Force, but talent without training is nothing. Luke promises to give his life to protect Grogu, but Grogu won't be safe until he masters his abilities. Mando picks up his child, and urges him to go with Luke and promises to see him again. Grogu reaches out to touch Mando's helmet, and Din removes it. Grogu then reaches out again once more to touch his father's face. Din tells Grogu not to be afraid. Still clinging to Mando, R2-D2 appears. And with a few beeps, another approving nod from Din, Grogu reaches for Luke, and Luke carries him off as Grogu shares one last look with Din. Din, with a sad but optimistic gleam in his eye, nods, and the turbo lift door closes. Let me get the bad out of the way. James mentioned this earlier, and after watching it a couple more times, my biggest nitpick of this episode, and I don't want to be too bothersome by just choosing to focus on this one thing, but that CG deepfake definitely could have been done a little bit better. It wasn't too bad. As long as he doesn't talk, it's cool. But it was nice to see Mark Hamill's face. I would have been fine with the recasting. Honestly, I'm not that kind of person where it's got to be the original actor. It's got to look like him. Just get it close and get someone who understands the character, and I'm cool with that. But it was nice to see Mark's face. I can't really nail whether or not it's his voice. It doesn't quite sound like him. I think maybe looking at his face and stuff also kind of took that away. I imagine if I close my eyes, maybe I could hear Luke's voice there, or Mark Hamill's voice, but I'm not sure. But R2, if you want to talk about a fan servicey, not unnecessary moment, this was it. I was happy to see R2-D2. I'm not gonna lie, like it was cool. I was like, hey, R2's there. But then immediately afterwards, I'm like, did you have to show R2? Like you were already kind of like pushing it pretty far by bringing in Luke. You knew people were gonna have a problem with this, and then you went and pushed it a little too far by bringing in R2 as well. But it was still a cute scene. The two of them share beeps and coos and whatever, and so it was for the kids, I guess, more than anything, who are watching Mando and the rest of the team brutally murder all of these stormtroopers, but whatever.
Yeah, but for as much of a problem as I have with Luke showing up, we're stuck with Luke, whatever, that's fine. R2 showing up makes sense. They pal around the galaxy. That was kind of a big thing in the prior Legends canon. Like, if Luke was going to go out hunt for Jedi and he's just doing it on his X-Wing, who's he going to have in his X-Wing? Good old R2. So for him to, for him to be bored and pop out of the X-Wing and go looking around the ship, I can buy that. That's fine. I don't call that too much.
Yeah, R2 opened the door, didn't find a monster, so he went looking for trouble, left the X-Wing.
Probably sizing up all those dark trooper parts going, I could do something with that.
My nitpick was that I had really hoped it wasn't going to be Luke that Grogu called out to on Typhon. Like, I knew it wasn't going to end up being Ahsoka, and I'm glad for that. And I'm glad it wasn't Mace Windu. And overall, I can see Luke being able to intuit Din and Grogu's relationship so quickly and understand what goodbyes need to be said. And in that regard, he's not a bad choice. I'm just sick of hearing about Skywalker. I'm also not certain who I would have liked to see take care of Grogu. It was the most logical choice, and I just don't like that it was the most logical choice because I'm sick of Skywalker.
Hey, honestly, with bringing Dark Troopers into this season, why couldn't we have just had the good old moldy crow come into the light cruiser there? Kyle Katarn's ship. Give us Jedi Kyle Katarn. He was in the Dark Forces and Jedi Knight video games. Bring that into new continuity, why don't you?
So with the gripes about Luke Skywalker out of the way, let's focus on the rest of this scene. It hit me right in the feels with every frame. The music changes and it pulls you in close. You feel like you're right there next to Din, watching him send his little boy off to Jedi college. Grogu is 50 after all. He's getting a late start. But in all seriousness, it was very touching, especially when Din takes off his helmet. You could read Grogu's mind. Take off your helmet, Dad. I want to see your face one last time before I go. and he removes it right in front of everybody. And I start to develop this unexplainable allergic reaction in my eyes. Then Grogu reaches up and touches his face, and Din closes his eyes and then opens them again and smiles at his son and tells him it's time to go. And you can see the sadness in both of their faces. And then I sprung a leak. Again, I think about the time I dropped my daughter off at daycare for the first time. I really should see an allergist.
I want to see your face when you kick me out of the house, Dad.
And if
Look into my eyes when you kick me out of the house.
And if this scene doesn't convince you that the Grogu puppet and the puppeteers are the best in the damn business, then what are you doing? Watching this show with your eyes closed?
I mean, if that's the only way you can get a passable Luke Skywalker voice, sure. And that's totally the end of the episode. Roll credits, nothing else.
Two suns are in the sky above Jabba's palace. Bib Fortuna is on the throne. Gunfire in the staircase draws their attention as Bib orders one of his guards to take a look. The guard is gunned down, along with the others, by Fennec Shand. She frees a fearful Twi'lek slave and instructs her to leave with a nod. Boba Fett descends the stairs. Bib, relieved at the sight, exclaims that he heard Boba was dead, but is glad to see him, having heard so many rumors. Boba straight up kills him with his E-33 carbine rifle, tosses his body to the side, and takes his seat on the dais. Then we are presented with the words, "The Book of Boba Fett, coming December 2021. What? First of all, Bibbs has put on some weight, man. Not that I'm fat shaming here, but what have they been feeding you? And,
Everything.
Is that what happens when you take over Jabba's palace? Because then I've got some real concerns for Boba, because his armor's fitting a little snug right now. So will it fit come December? It sounds like it might be a limited series, like 8 episodes and done. But it's releasing around the same time that we expect Mando season 3 to drop. And at Disney Investor Day, Kathleen Kennedy did mention that the next chapter will premiere in December of next year. Jon Favreau said the production on the 3rd season is supposed to schedule, start around that sometime the end of this year. So is the Book of Boba Fett the next season of The Mandalorian? Will it run concurrently? December is an entire month, so it could release December 31. And if Mandalore season 3 follows the same schedule it did this year, it could end, and then the other one could start right after. But they announced so many other things coming, with both Ahsoka and the Rangers of the New Republic taking place in the same timeline, and that their stories are supposed to be interconnected. This is going to be very interesting to see them pull off.
Yeah, we're recording this the day that the episode drops. So typically Lucasfilm is going to, do more behind the scenes and more actual talking spoiler wise the Monday, the weekend afterwards, whatever. So all we have is speculation right now. It could be a little maybe standalone Boba Fett movie. It could be like maybe a little 3-episode thing. I wouldn't see an actual 8-episode season, considering that's how long Mandalorian seasons are. But it could even just be, like Robert said, season 3 of Mandalorian. I could totally see the show being, it's called The Mandalorian. The first 2 seasons could be all about Din Djarin. Season 3 could be all about Boba Fett. Season 4 could be all about Bo-Katan and, taking back Mandalore. So it could turn it into an anthology series. Hell, we could even get a season 5 talking about ye olden ancient days of the first Mandalore. Mandalore the Great or whatever, the one who first had the Darksaber. That would be neat. And hey, fun cameo. Matthew Wood, mostly known for being the supervising sound editor at Skywalker Sound and the voice of General Grievous, played Bib Fortuna here, a role he also played back in The Phantom Menace.
Cool. Now that we reached the end of this chapter, what are your overall thoughts on this chapter?
Again, honestly, I enjoyed this episode up until we had the Luke Ex Machina show up. Just it's not that brings down the episode completely. If I were to compare it to last season's finale, I prefer the season 1 finale more. I don't know. It was fine. A lot of great action and everything. It's the same problem that this show has. It's competently done and it's good, even great in most times. But like, there's just some things that you just kind of have to. Maybe I'm being nitpicky with the whole Luke thing. It's just I don't know. We didn't need another Skywalker. Didn't need it. Nathan.
So last week I expressed concern about them being able to finish this season without it being a cliffhanger. And I think it's safe to say that they delivered, because it did not feel like a cliffhanger. It felt like an ending. And I was worried that the season was going to end with Din getting captured by Moff Gideon, so that the start of season 3 would be him escaping to finally recover Grogu and then get him on his way to whoever answered Grogu's call on Tython. I felt that was a season that as a season finale would do the show a disservice. It would just be way too greedily. It would just be a way to greedily lead the audience on. I'm excited at the realization that this show may no longer be about just one Mandalorian. Maybe the next season there'll be episodes focusing on Din, Boba, or maybe even Bo as they go on to finish their own stories. And like I said, it felt like an ending. It felt like we're done telling the tale of Din Djarin, and I'm okay with that.
This finale was a wonderful ride. I was worried how they were going to cover everything and deliver a satisfying end, wow us, leave us with anticipation of what's next. I've already said so much, so I'll sum it up like this. Forgetting the 2 moments of bad CG work, the Lambda shuttle and the de-aging of Mark Hamill, this episode delivered in every way that I wanted and in every way I didn't know that I needed. A great conclusion to a great season. And with that, let's just share our quick thoughts here about the final thoughts of the season as a whole. Was the season perfect? None can ever be, I think, but it was damn close for me. It's so much better than the first season, and I can't even recall the greater moments, any moment greater in the previous season than in this one in the last 8 weeks. Chapter 9, Crate Dragon. Chapter 10, Nabi White Spiders. Chapter 11, we get Bo-Katan. Chapter 12, we get the revelation of the secret plans for Grogu and the rebirth of the Razor Crest. Chapter 13, we get Ahsoka Tano. Chapter 14, the rebirth of Boba Fett and the death of the Razor Crest. Chapter 15, the redemption of Migs Mayfield. And then 16, Luke Skywalker guest stars. So a lot of big moments, and it was just great. While not every episode was necessarily always better than the last, it was always trending upwards, and they were always giving us something to look forward to next. I was very, very impressed, and they left it in a great spot here. The orphaned foundling bounty hunter we met so long ago now has the rightful claim to the throne. Let the Star Wars Game of Thrones begin. Just please don't fumble the ball in the last season like HBO did. Thank the Force, that Favreau and Filoni, for a wonderful season.
Overall, I enjoyed the series this season. Again, like I said, this show, very good, always competently done. Not everything fully works for me. Maybe I'm just nitpicking on some things, but yeah, I enjoyed this season. It's one of those it's a weird season, like for anybody who isn't fully connected into all of the, smaller parts of the continuity, doesn't know your Bo-Katans from your Cobb Vamps to your Ahsokas. Like, I could see maybe being a little confused, but whatever. That's on them, I guess. I don't know. I enjoyed the season. I look forward to whatever comes next, whether it be Boba Fett as a season 3 main character or just some sort of lead up into the dozen or so new series that were announced at the Disney Investor Day last week. Although personally, I'm more excited for the Patty Jenkins Rogue Squadron movie than I am for anything else. So, huzzah!
The season was great. Like Robert said, not every episode was a hit, but on the whole, it was trending upwards. So I like that. And it kind of hit me the episode when the Razor Crest blew up that the story was coming to an end. I mean, not that it couldn't be continued. It's just it felt like that was the beginning of the end to me. And so I kind of liked how they kind of kept on that with they're finishing up the story they had to tell about Din and the child, and that they didn't prolong it too long. And it's something I don't get to see in American television too much. They're always, how long can we keep the series going? How long can we keep milking the money out of it and everything? So it's nice to see that it feels like they had a story they wanted to tell, and they told it. And there was a lot of great reactions to it, and they found a way to keep it going, possibly with other characters, to give Boba Fett his own spotlight. Finally, he's always been a secondary character and everything he's been in. Now he's going to be possibly the main character for season 3, or a spinoff, or a movie, or whatever it's going to be. And I think that's great, because now people are going to see why he's been such a fan favorite ever since he's been introduced way back in, what was it, 79, I think it was, when the holiday special came out, whenever it was. So I just, it while it seems like an ending to Din Djarin, it also feels like a door opening to so much more, and I love it.
Yeah, honestly, thinking about it real quick again. So we had season 1 end. We didn't get a post-credits scene. The scene with Moff Gideon, and showing his Darksaber, that was before the credits rolled. It was after, Mandalorian had his exit for the season or whatever, but it was pre-credits. The fact that the Boba Fett scene is post-credits definitely does make it seem like more of this, like, it would be sad if we don't get to see Din Djarin again for a while, but that could be the way it's going to lean.
But let us know what you thought about chapter 16 and season 2.
In the comments, Nathan?
Yeah, in the comments below, tell us what you thought about this chapter and season 2 as a whole.
But not the comments above, just below.
Yeah, nothing above, only below.
Yes.
Not to the like, I don't know, the left or the right?
To the left? To the left?
To the right? To the right?
I'm surrounded by comments.
That wraps up this season of My Mando and Me. Will we be back next season? I don't know. If we're bored enough, maybe. How long's this pandemic been going on? 500 years?
501. Before we go, on November 28th, the Star Wars community lost beloved actor and original Lord of the Sith, David Prowse. And just this past Thursday, December 17th, we lost the original Mandalorian, Jeremy Bulloch. We want to extend our thoughts and prayers to their surviving friends and family. They brought the characters Darth Vader and Boba Fett to life forever and changed the lives of fans and nerds everywhere for all time. I had the pleasure of meeting both David Prowse and Jeremy Bulloch many years ago, back in the days of Star Wars weekends. Even Peter Mayhew and Kenny Baker, who are also no longer with us. I got to speak to each of them briefly, take a photo, grab some autographs, and thank them for their work in bringing my favorite Star Wars characters to life, especially Jeremy Bulloch, as Boba Fett is my absolute favorite, if the background behind me hasn't told you that yet. My favorite piece of memorabilia that I have is a signed figure of Boba Fett, and his signature is over here on the bottom. It's still boxed, and I don't think I will ever part with it, especially now.
Yeah, it's always sad to hear about their passings. It's a fact of life and death, and it's one of those things that as the years go on, these movies originally released in the, late 70s, early 80s, people will just keep getting older, and we're going to get more of these year after year. It was really sad when Carrie Fisher passed a few years back. So, yeah. I also was with Robert and Nathan at these Star Wars weekends, and somewhere I have a couple of signed, trading cards, which are really cool, and we'll probably just either sit collecting dust or somewhere on a shelf, maybe. Wait, that would be collecting dust. The point being, sad.
I never actually got to stay in line long enough to talk with anybody or get anything signed. I always had to duck out early, and I couldn't spend the whole day. I think it just seemed every time the Star Wars weekends came around, I was either busy with work or something else entirely. And while I might be able to go, it'd only be for half a day or so. And then I'd have to jet out, go to work, or do whatever it was that I needed to do at the time. So I got nothing.
And with that, we want to dedicate this episode and really this series to them. to all the people that changed our galaxy forever from a galaxy far, far away, gone too soon. Thank you. And thanks again for joining us. We'll be breaking for the holiday, and then we'll return to our regular bi-weekly podcast schedule with our review of the video game Star Wars Squadrons. Yes, more Star Wars. Though we promise other topics are on the list. But with The Mandalorian Season 2 just ending and no new mainstream Star Wars content coming soon, we got to ride that algorithm wave before it wanes. Please have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Be sure to spend time with your loved ones. Stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll see you in the next one.
Later.
Happy holidays, and be good to each other out there.
Well, you got to go to work, and I got to start editing. So
I gotta poop.
Oh.